Hello, everybody. I am Abram Kielsmeyer Jones, and I'm going to be spending the next little while with you in this brief video talking about how to use Hebrew lexicons in Accordance Bible software. And we'll be using Micah 6:8 as our test case. You'll see here I've got an outline for myself open on the right side here, and we'll be following this. We're going to talk first about how to find the Hebrew word in question when you're reading through a biblical text. We're going to look at triple clicking, live click and research, linking lexicons, and creating a custom lexicon group. We're also along the way going to explore some entries in some well-known and beloved Hebrew lexicons, ones that you'll find helpful, both scholarly lexicons and other ones that are oriented toward exegesis and theology in particular. So we'll take a look at those as we go. So we'll start by finding the Hebrew word. That's often the first question we have as we're reading through a text, and that is, what is the Hebrew word that I'm looking at here? You can see here that I've got the NRSV open in parallel with the Hebrew Bible. You could have these flipped. Maybe you've got the English open first and the Hebrew Bible, but either way, when you've got a tagged text that has key numbers, so whether it's Strong's or we've got some with GK, Goodrich-Kohlenberger numbers, NRSV, ESV, NIV, King James, NASB. If it's tagged in this way, cross-highlighting will go between the English translation and the tagged Hebrew text. So all I have to do here is hover over a given English word to see what the Hebrew word is. Here's Adam, translated by some translations as man, the generic man, translated in the NRSV as mortal. Here's the word justice. Maybe we want to know, what is this word justice? What is this word kindness? Just by hovering over the English word here, I'm just resting my cursor here, not even clicking anything. I hover over justice and I see that it's the Hebrew word mishpat, and that's selected, or that's highlighted in the Hebrew text to the right. Now, even if I don't have this Hebrew text open, I can see some information in the instant details as well. That also tells me that the Hebrew word here is mishpat. And if I don't know the Hebrew characters, or if I'm fuzzy on them, you can make sure that your instant details are set in the preferences to give you the transliteration. So you can see that here, mishpat. That's the Hebrew word for justice. And you could do that similarly with words like kindness. Here's chesed, and so on and so forth. So parallel panes or the instant details will enable this cross-highlighting or hovering over the word to see what the given Hebrew word is that you're looking at in the text. Now, I'm assuming you're starting from the English text. You may be starting from a Hebrew text, in which case you're all set. But if you're starting from an English text, this is how you answer that first question, which is, what is the Hebrew word that I'm looking at here? So having done that, you're going to probably want to look up the word. And you can triple click to look up the word in your default lexicon. Accordance is the only app I know of. There may be one or two others that use triple click. But if you triple click on a word, it will look up that word in your default lexicon. And I can either triple click from the English on justice, so 1, 2, 3, triple click, or I can close that and triple click from the Hebrew, 1, 2, 3, triple click. Now, those went to two different lexicons because I have it set to do that. If you go to Preferences, in Windows, by the way, this will be in the Edit menu, but if you go to Preferences and then Amplify, you can set your triple click defaults. And you'll notice here that I've got, for Hebrew, I've got Halot, the Hebrew Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. And for me, when I'm triple clicking from Hebrew, I usually want something more in depth. But when I'm just triple clicking from a key number or from an English text, I get this more concise Kohlenberger-Mounts Hebrew dictionary. But you can adjust this however you want to. But my own personal workflow is such that I can triple click justice from the English, and I can see this short, concise lexical entry here: justice, judgment, law, regulation, prescription, specification. Now I can come over and triple click on the Hebrew, and that's going to take me into Halot, which is going to give me a much more robust entry with lots and lots of hyperlinked references. You see, I could just hover over any of these and see the verses showing in the instant details. So that's triple click. That will take you right to your default lexicon, and that takes you a step further from just what is the Hebrew word I'm looking at, it starts to answer the question, well, what does the word mean? And again, you're not getting a whole lot with some of these more concise lexicons, so you're going to want to go further, but you can do that initial triple click to start to see what's going on there. One really neat feature with triple click you want to make sure to be aware of is, again, under Preferences and Amplify, there's a setting right here under Other, which is Include Reference when amplifying from text to tool. Now, text is just the Bible text, tool is the lexicon. Amplify is Accordance's way of saying, look up this word in something else. So you're looking up a word that's in the text in a tool, and you're clicking on this, checking this, so that the reference is included. Now, in Mishpat, that occurs 425 times, so inevitably, we're not going to see every use listed here. But if I go up here, let's just take this word here, body or beten or belly. If I triple click on this word, you can see, here's an example where triple clicking on a Hebrew word with that reference field checked in the preferences will give you the Hebrew entry here, and it added to your search another condition, which is show me the entry and show me if my verse is in that entry. And sure enough, it is. It's right here, Micah 6:7. And you don't need it in this case because you can see it, but you've got the hit buttons here that you can use as well to advance through longer entries. So again, that's under Preferences, and remember in Windows, that's Preferences is found in the Edit window. But Preferences, Amplify, you can set the defaults here and include reference when amplifying from text to tool. That's useful to know if your lexicographer has weighed in on what they think a particular verse has going on in terms of the meaning. But as we saw, you're often going to come to entries where it doesn't have the reference listed, and that's fine. But when it is listed, you want to know, and so you can get that condition added automatically to all your searches. So we found the Hebrew word, we've triple clicked, which is some initial looking up, but let's say you didn't get enough. Let's say you want to go further with Mishpat. You want to understand more what's going on with this word justice here. Well, you can use either live click or research. They're really kind of the same thing, but basically what it's doing is looking up that word in all of your Hebrew lexicons at the same time. Here's the live click feature right here, and it's unchecked at the moment, but if I click on it, this gear icon becomes visible, and so I can click on that. That's just a shortcut back to my preferences. There are 3 kinds of live click lookups that you can do. You can do them all at the same time, but for right now, because this video is about lexicons, we're just going to check lexicon lookup. And if I select OK, now when I go to Mishpat, I can live click it, which is just to say I can single click it. So here's one click, and it's going to look up Mishpat in all of my Hebrew lexicons. I'm going to magnify this zone and show it to you so that you can see it better. Here is Mishpat, and you can see that it entered the word in the search entry area. And here's a list of all of my Hebrew lexicons. And it's going to allow me to just click through these. And of course, I can open any of them, which we'll do in just a moment. But this gear icon will allow you to just see excerpts of it, or maybe you want to see the whole thing. You can sort by your library order. So in my library, under the lexicons, this is the order I've put my lexicons in. You can just drag and drop to rearrange them, but you may want to see it that way. You could do sort by entry. That's a little bit easier to see all of the lexicons at once, I think. The reason you're seeing some lexicons here more than once, by the way, we see this here with the library order, is that it is first searching Halat by Hebrew entry, Mishpat, which I want, but then it's also searching it by content. And so anytime Mishpat occurs in another lexical entry, it's going to show me Mishpat when it's in the body of the text. If you really wanted to research this word, you could see it in the body of the entries of other related words, and that could be helpful. But I think more often than not, especially with just getting your bearings initially on a word study, just searching your lexicons by entry is going to be enough. Of course, you could never search your lexicons by the body, the content in a print edition. This is something that's unique in accordance. So you can sort this however you want to in the gear icon here. But I've triple clicked on Mishpat, and I've seen it in my, I've single clicked on Mishpat for live click. So single click for live click, triple click is the default. Single click on Mishpat, and I've got it here in the lexicon lookup. Now, interestingly, if I single click or live click on justice, because this is a key number text, so here's the key number, 4941. If I single click or live click on justice, it does the same exact thing, and it does the translation for me. And so my live click lexicon lookup takes me to Mishpat in all of my Hebrew lexicons. So it really is the same whether you live click from English or from Hebrew, as long as you've got a tagged text with these key numbers, and then you can see it in all of your lexicons. Let's do an excursus here and just look for a moment at this word mishpat in these 4 lexicons. And I won't be able to do justice to each of them, but just brief overviews of what they all are. I'm going to make this a little bit larger here. And all right, so here's halot, and I can open that. Again, I can magnify this zone. Now, this is going to be a lot to wade through. And you can see here that the nuance varies from decision to judgment, dispute, case, legal claim, measure. These are all the different meanings that this word can have depending on context. And this lexicon is saying it means dispute or case in this passage in Ezekiel or in this passage in Exodus. Now, there is some level of interpretation going on here, so you want to check out those passages for yourself. But this is going to give you a lot of data, and it's not going to go deep in the interpretation in the sense that you're just going to get a quick hyperlink and maybe a sentence or two, the law on adultery or litigation about blood guilt, and that's that. But you are going to get some of the more thorough and comprehensive entries in this Hebrew Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. And DCH is similar, the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew, and you can see you'll see a similar length there when you look up mishpat. In fact, see here it went to mishpat with adversary, but we just scroll up and we see mishpat, the same consonants, and this is even longer than what you've got in halot, and lots and lots and lots of stuff here. You know, if you were preaching on this passage, I would say a lexicon of this length could be useful but may not be necessary. You may get all that you need in one of the more concise lexicons, but here it all is, and you can look it up. So that's the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew, which is quite extensive, and it does a little bit more Hebrew than just biblical Hebrew. You can read about that in the introduction. It talks about what the actual corpus is, or the multiple corpuses that are in view in the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew. So you get a little bit more than just biblical Hebrew. It'll cover the inscriptions and some other Hebrew stuff as well. So those are more on the scholarly side, both Halot and the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew. And then you've got, I trust you all know BDB. That's often used by folks just coming into Hebrew. It's on the lengthy and fairly comprehensive side, if a little bit dated. We've also got the Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament. Now, these windows are small just because I've got a small screen. You may have a larger screen, but you can always rearrange all of this. And this, these square brackets here allow me to magnify that zone or pop it out. So the Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament is, you can see the contents here. You've got occurrences and meaning, Old Testament usage. You've got some Dead Sea Scrolls here. You'll often have New Testament usage covered. You'll have Septuagint usage covered. Sometimes that will extend into the New Testament, but certainly the Septuagint here. And so this is organized in almost like not a chronological way, but a kind of book by book or corpus by corpus way, so that you can see not just how the Old Testament uses it, but how it's used in these other places as well. Now, as the name suggests, this is a theological dictionary, and so we noticed with Dictionary of Classical Hebrew and Halot, we just had the data and lots of hyperlinks. Here we've got some actual writing, some prose, that expands on what this word might mean in given context. This goes more into the realm of a commentary, and it's by design. The dictionary claims to be a theological dictionary, so it's going to give you more than just this means a dispute. It's going to say, well, who's doing the dispute, and what does that say about God, and what does that say about the ones who are trying to contend with God, for example. There's a lot here that you could wade through, but just to highlight, this is more theological in nature, and so of course this would be a good one for preaching or writing an exegesis paper, or if you were doing your own personal Bible study. And then there's this other new dictionary, New International Dictionary of Old Testament Theology and Exegesis, and that is the other one I wanted to highlight, NIDOTTE. And you can see here that you've got Ancient Near East, Old Testament. So this is similar to the one we just looked at. And then you've got a bibliography. And again, this may not be, this entry at least is not as comprehensive as the one that we just saw. But as this title suggests, it is going to be it's going to be theological and exegetical. So it's more than just the data. It wants to go a little bit further to help you with some suggested interpretations. And generally, these theological dictionaries, these two tend to be even-handed, or at least they try to be. So if there is a debated interpretation, they'll try to present multiple sides. They may say this seems to make the most sense, or it may just say it could be this, it could be that. It's not quite as interpretive as a commentary, but you could think of it as somewhere in between one of these more academic lexicons and like a devotional commentary. So lots of theological import here that really kind of draws all of the Hebrew Bible together in a way that you have to do piecemeal here with Halot or the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew. In either of these theological dictionaries, it's going to be interested in talking about how this word is used throughout Scripture as a whole and what it teaches about God and humanity and so on and so forth. So that is an all too brief tour of some excellent lexicons that you may consider for your Hebrew studies, wherever that will take you in the future. And we got to all of those at once through LiveClick or research. Before we had LiveClick, there was research, which you would just right-click on a word and go to research and look it up in all of your Hebrew lexicons at once. That's the longer way of doing LiveClick. But now that there's LiveClick, just do that single click and you can look at it, and anything in your library is going to show up in that search. You may wish to link some lexicons, and then you can save the workspace. But let's say those lexicons that we looked at, these four here, are the ones that you always want to see anytime you look up a word. You can link those lexicons to one another. Let me just triple click Mishpat again here. So here's Halot. And now I can go to, well, I could take Mishpat here, or I could take it here, but you can use the amplify button here, which is just another way to look it up in something. And so let's say I'm going to look it up in the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew. So that's Mishpat. You see here it took the scripture reference because it had it in this case. I'm just going to put this down here so we can see them together. Now, I've got the same entry in both lexicons, but let's say I want to always see any word that I triple click in not just Halot, but Halot and Dictionary of Classical Hebrew. And let's say I'm going to triple click 5 or 6 words as I read this verse. I mean, there's a lot here. First of all, some translations have mortal, some have man or mankind, some have humankind. So that gets me curious about the Hebrew word. The word good, tov, I might want to unpack that. Justice, kindness, walking humbly. So there's a lot here. And so I could see reading Micah 6:8 and wanting to triple click on a bunch of different things. But this link lexicon is another thing that you can do that is not quite the full-on live click. But so I've got Mishpat here. I got to it manually. But if I close this reference field, and remember, Halot is my default Hebrew amplify from Hebrew. If I want to have the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew just follow Halot everywhere, I can go to this search entry area. I can right click. I can go to enter command and link. There's a keyboard shortcut as well. I could also go to search, enter command, link, or I could start typing L-I-N-K. Now, it thinks it doesn't think anything. It thinks I'm either typing in Hebrew or typing an L-I-N-K command with this quick entry predictive feature. So however you get it, whether it's right click or from the search menu up at the top or typing or a keyboard shortcut, enter command and link. And then this pops up and it says, what tab do you want to link it to? And I want to link the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew to Halot, so I click on OK. So it types that in. Now this text turns black, which means it has not run the search. If I hit enter, it turns gray, it's run the search. There's nothing significant here because we're on the same word. But watch now as I go to Adam or any other word. If I go to Chesed for loving kindness, I triple click on it and I get it in Halot and the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew. Here's Elohim. And so I'm triple clicking on it and I'm getting it in my default Hebrew lexicon, but I've also linked the Dictionary of Classical Hebrew. Now, you don't have to know all of this. Out of everything I'm presenting, you can just decide what's the most comfortable for you, what makes the most sense. But this is a way that you could link your lexicons together, and you could open more and more lexicons and link a bunch of them together so that every time you looked up a word, you had it showing in your 5 favorite lexicons. And then you can stack them together as different tabs like this. So you could repeat that process with the link command. And once you've done that, you've got a workspace that you probably want to save. So you can just go to File and Save to save your workspace. And that's going to pop up a dialog that's going to say, what do you want to save your workspace as? And I'll just save this as linked lexicons, and it will go right into my accordance files. It will change the name up here, and now in the future I can open it up when I go to File, Open Workspace. You'll see it now at the bottom, linked lexicon. So it will save the layout so I don't have to repeat the work. Finally, one other thing you can do, and again, a lot of this is redundant. You won't need to do all of these things, but you may find this helpful too. You can actually create a custom group of lexicons in your library. And so if I just type in lexicon, or I could use this filter here to go to all of my tools. And now here are my Hebrew lexicons. All right, so let's say I want to take these top 5 lexicons and just make them a user group. This is similar to linking, but let's say I'm going to just look up every word in these 5. Maybe I'm never going to look them up in these ones. No offense to these lexicons, just an example. So right-click after you've selected them, add to user group, and I'm going to go to new group, and I'm going to call it favorite lexicons. You can see that there. And so now that has gone, I'm going to unfilter here. Now that's going to show up at the very bottom under my groups, and you'll see here favorite lexicons. There it is. So I've got Halot, Dictionary of Classical Hebrew, BDB Complete, Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament, and NIDOT. Those are all here now as favorite lexicons, and what you can do is amplify to this custom group. And so this is the amplify button, same as up here. And remember, amplify is just Accordance's word for taking a selection from a text and looking it up somewhere else, like in a tool. So if I select Chesed now, and I'm going to turn off live click. If I select Chesed, so I just double click to select that text, and now I go to my favorite lexicons here, I can click on amplify, and it looks it up just in those lexicons. I got the research window again. Now, you can get to the research window for all your lexicons, but maybe you want to do it this way. It's a little more concise, and you've got just those 5 lexicons. So that's how you do a user group. Lots of different ways that you can interact with your lexicons in Accordance. We did not spend a whole lot of time in this session going through individual entries, but I trust that's something you can do on your own. Accordance is great about hyperlinking abbreviations, and scripture references and things like that. So hopefully this is helpful to you. You can find the Hebrew word. You can triple click to look it up. You can do live click and just see all lexicons at once. And then you could think of 4 and 5 as more specializing. If you wanted to link some favorite lexicons in a workspace or create a custom group, you could do that as well. Thanks very much for watching, and I wish you all the best in your accordance studies. Take care.